Prospects for international travel are looking up as a growing number of countries adopt a new normal amid the pandemic. Having said that, we share with you the arrival and departure protocols at airports here to facilitate your movement across borders. Do take a look.
On November 1st, the much-anticipated Living with COVID-19 scheme began in earnest. Along with this, countries are now reopening borders to international travelers step by step.
Amid the pandemic that is still rampant, today we are going to take a closer look at both departure and arrival procedures taken at the airport.
This is Incheon International Airport, the gateway to Korea. At here, you can find 3 COVID-19 testing centers. At those testing sites, you can get PCR and antibody tests.
I took the PCR test because I'm going back to Bulgaria. And I'm going back because I've been here for 3 years and I graduated, I worked, and I'm going back home for work again.
미국으로 출국을 하게 됐고요. 지금 미국에서 이 검사 결과를 가져오라고 해서 받으러 왔어요.
Currently, many countries, including the United States and most European countries, require a negative PCR result or vaccination certificate.
We offer the PCR and antibody test daily, 365 days, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. PCR test is about 3 hours to get the result out. So if you just wanted to see the PCR, that's it. But we also offer the antigen and antibody test. It will be available within 1 hour.
Hawaii and Guam have become popular travel destinations. And if you're heading there, you must check travel requirements as they have their own travel guidance. Travel restrictions on overseas travelers from each country can be found on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Overseas Safety Travel website. Meanwhile, South Korea has signed a deal with Saipan and Singapore to create a so-called travel bubble this year. If you leave for a country that has signed a deal, self-isolation will be exempted or minimized.
트래블 버블은 한마디로 방역이 안전한 나라끼리 양국 간에 약을 맺어서 그 격리 기간 세계적으로 14일간의 이제 도착지에서 있는 14일간의 격리 기간을 없애거나 최소화하자는 그런 약속이거든요. 트래블 버블을 맺은 국가끼리는 격리 기간을 없애서 자유로운 여행이 가능해지게 됩니다.
Meanwhile, quarantine measures may differ depending on the country that you're from, as well as your vaccination status and whether or not you have COVID-19 symptoms.
Symptomatic passengers will be tested for the virus, and if tested positive, they will be transferred to a designated hospital or a residential treatment center. For asymptomatic travelers, they are subject to different quarantine measures depending on the vaccination status. First, to be exempt from quarantine, 3 requirements, including being fully vaccinated, must be met. In addition, you must get negative PCR results on the first and between 6 and 7 days after arrival. Those who are not vaccinated will go through a 2-week self-quarantine period. Meanwhile, if you are returning from countries that are not eligible for quarantine exemption or that are deemed high risk, you must check quarantine authorities' website as measures such as the quarantine period and additional tests may vary from country to country.
예방접종 완료자 격리 면제 제외 국가 16개 나라를 선정하였습니다. 격리 면제 제외 국가에서 11월 1일 이후 입국하는 경우에는 격리 면제가 제외됩니다.
When traveling abroad with your child, the age of your child determines whether to self-quarantine after returning home.
부모가 예방접종을 완료하고 PCR 음성 확인서를 가져오는 경우에 자녀는 6세 미만 아동은 PCR 음성 확인서 없이 입국이 가능하고요. 들어와서 자가격리가 면제됩니다. 6세 이상의 아동의 경우는 부모가 예방접종 완료하고 PCR 음성 확인서를 받더라도 본인의 PCR 음성 확인서를 가지고 입국해야 하며 예방접종을 안 맞은 아동의 경우에는 자가격리 10일을 하게 됩니다.
Expectations for overseas travel are growing thanks to the implementation of the Living with COVID-19 scheme. However, it is important that we do need to follow quarantine measures thoroughly, such as getting vaccinated or complying with hygiene procedures for a safe trip. This has been 신새벽.